Okay, so I'm going to start with the vase. When you're doing this, or when you're watching, make sure that you're not just passively watching and just seeing what happens. Make sure that you're actually thinking about this. If you're still having any issues with throwing, make sure you kind of think what's going wrong and try to pay attention really close to where my hands are and stuff like that when I get to a point where things are going wrong for you. So, like I said, I'm going to throw pretty fast today. So, start with the vase. Basically, the vase starts like a cylinder. The three things that you've already learned, the cylinder, the bowl, and the plate, pretty much covers how everything from there on in is done. What you do is just keep modifying those and getting bigger, better, or changing the shape or whatever. But those are the three base shapes that you're going to start with. So when you're centering, a reminder, because I still have some people who have elbows up in the air, you absolutely cannot have your elbows up in the air. You have to stay down and connected, and you have to lean forward and work your way in. Also make sure you're taking your foot off the pedal. Too many people, I think, are still keeping their foot on the pedal. So get it nice and centered. There are two ways to do this. I tend to have my one hand on the top kind of pushing down as the other one pushes in. I've also seen where this one's pushing in and this one is pushing straight down. You can try out either way that works for you. Again, if you watch 100 potters do anything, you're going to see 100 different ways of doing things. So, all right, so I get it centered to start with. Since it's a cylinder, I am going to start a little bit higher. That would be a good shape for a bowl where I started there. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit. Think about how wide I actually want my base to be afterwards. So since I want this to be kind of tall, you'll notice I didn't really get a lot of clay. I don't want you to think that you have to have huge amounts of clay to do things. All that does is make things more difficult for you. Basically learn to throw nice and solid and nice and thin, and then you can use small pieces and work up from there. So I'm going to start opening it then. Hold on tight on the sides to stabilize myself, and then start sending these down the center. Now eventually, especially on vases and other things that are tall, it's going to get too tall, so I'm going to have to go to my middle finger and just drill the rest of the way down in. And try to get used to being able to see the depth when you're down in there. If not, you're going to have to stop and use a needle tool. And open. If it starts clattering, like it started moving a little bit on me, I pushed my other wrist down onto the wheel to stop it from kind of clattering. These bat pins are not very tight, and I need to cut them off of there eventually, but I don't have the right tools to do that. Now, before I do much of anything, I'm actually going to do a collar in, because I just made that a little bit smaller. I'm going to get some height to start with. I'm pushing in from the bottom, and I'm continuing up the sides. And get it to a little bit of a volcano shape. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to push. I need to make sure that this doesn't stay down here, because if it's really, really wide like this, it's never going to look good. So I'm going to push my fingers in, pick that up, and taper that in a little bit. Then I'm going to start pulling up. The first pull, all I do is kind of straighten everything up to make sure that it's about even all the way through it. If it widens at all, at any point in time, you go back and you collar in. So I'm going to push that in a little ways. I'm going to slow this down. As you go in the steps, you should be slowing down each time. So now I need to start pulling up slower. And again, my elbow is on my knee, hard on my leg. And I'm looking straight down at what I'm doing. I have my hands at 3 o'clock and pulling upward. And I need to, for a cylinder or anything taller, I need to push harder with my outside hand than my inside hand. And what I mean by my outside hand is the one that's out here needs to push harder to keep pushing it in. Centrifugal force makes it want to come out anyway, so I need to fight that. And the other thing that I can do is I can bring my inside hand up a little bit so that the outside hand, inside hand, up just a little bit so that it's actually coming up the side a little bit uneven, so it keeps pushing in. So that's still pretty thick. Give a good color in here. And to make sure water doesn't sit down there for a long time, especially when I get taller pieces like this and they get thinner, I'm going to have troubles getting my hands down in after that, after a little while. I'm going to keep the rim kind of substantial up there. And I'm going to keep pulling up as a cylinder. Want to make sure that that doesn't get out too far. So I pretty much pull up, color in, pull up, color in, work my way through here. I'm going to really dig in one more time at the base and get it so that that comes up with me. Okay, this is getting pretty thin, so this is probably my last pull up. And then from there I'm going to do some shaping. Now I want to decide, remember the rule of thirds, so it's either 1/3 of the way up or 1/3 of the way down that you want to have whatever change. Right now this change is closer to the bottom. I need to decide if I want to keep it that way or if I want to push it in a little bit more at the bottom and bring the shoulders out. I think I'm going to keep this one kind of bottom heavy. So I'm going to push from the inside. My outside hand is only there to support at this point. So put that one there. Then I'm going to switch. Get the water out of here. I'm going to switch now and push the neck in. With that, 3 points are the best. So I actually have my thumbs together. It's my thumbs that are 1 and then the 2. So you keep your hands moving together at all times that you can. Keep thinking that the top and the bottom need to be about the same width. That's good proportions, basically. It's pretty much like I want now. Now I'm handling it pretty gently. It's just fingertip to fingertip that I'm working on and working through. This is still a little wide down through here and it doesn't widen out in there, so I'm going to actually cut the base. Can you grab me one of the wood tools right behind you? There's the second one from the top. So the wood tool, you can do some cutting. This you really have to stabilize yourself again. I'm going to cut downward at an angle.